Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session F4 on agriculture, natural resource, and environmental management. So this is the third day of our 60th PS annual meeting and conference. And again, I'm Marites Chongo moderating this session. So for this morning, we have two speakers, two paper presenters, and you're lucky because you can now divide the time. You can have all the time, not all the time, but at least we can spend like 30 minutes for each of the paper presentation. So the first one is on viability of adopting climate resilient practices in small scale vegetable production in Leyte, Philippines. So we have here Dr. Neil Sereno, who will be presenting, and with his co-authors are Dr. Canesio Predo and Dr. Maria Teresa de Guzman and Jacqueline Gray from Australian Center for International Agricultural Research, while Dr. Canesio Predo is from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and Maria Teresa de Guzman is from the USDP CARD, and of course, Neil Sereno is from VISCA, from the Visayas State University. The second paper is on assessment on the economic contribution of mining industry in Carrascal, and our presenters from Northeastern Mindanao State University, Ms. Iris Joy Iparaguirre. So for the first paper, you will be given 30 minutes, 20 minutes presentation, and 10 minutes Q&A or discussion. And then after that, we can also have discussion for the two papers. Okay, so I'm now giving the floor to, or the screen to Dr. Neil Sereno. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Ma'am Chonko. So on behalf of my team, let me present to you our paper. So I've actually prepared a video presentation earlier because I'm also concurrently attending another meeting. So to maximize my time, so let me share to you my video presentation. Hello, everyone. On behalf of my team, let me present to you our project titled Viability of Adapting Climate Resilient Practices in Small-Scale Vegetable Production in Leyte, Philippines. Together with me in this project, we have Dr. Canesio Predo of the University of Philippines, Los Baños, Ms. Maria Teresa de Guzman of the USDP CARD, Ms. Jacqueline Gray of HR Philippines. With our research support staff, we have Ms. Jill Lapi and Ms. Ana Recto. Yours truly, Moises Neil V. Sereno from Visayas State University, based here in Leyte, Philippines. Mitigating the effects of climate change on the rural poor has been identified as one of the priority areas for the government. So this research addresses climate change and disaster risk reduction priority areas, particularly on development of strategies and decision management tools for climate change resiliency. As a bit of background, the Philippines has been experiencing extreme weather events attributable to a changing climate with more severe droughts and more excessive rainfall. Studies show that probably more than the temperature change, climate change-induced variability of rainfall is likely to have the greatest impacts in the country. According to the Global Climate Risk Index in 2020, the Philippines is among the top countries most affected by extreme weather events. Then agriculture bears the brunt of natural disasters, accounting for more than 60% or around 290 billion pesos of the damages recorded from 2010 to 2019. This is according to the data from Philippine Statistics Authority. Now, small-scale vegetable farmers or small-scale farmers in general are facing unprecedented challenges when attempting to increase production because of the occurrence of extreme weather events and changing climatic conditions. Now, growing vegetables has been a problem during wet season, particularly in Leyte, Philippines, because of intense rain affecting the growth and quality of produced vegetables, leading to the inability of farmers to satisfy demand for vegetables. And in addition, the occurrence of extreme weather events It's damaging the limited income stream of small-scale farmers. Farmers will constantly face a lot of income shocks from frequent and stronger typhoons, intense rains, and other weather disturbances. So this poses a serious threat to vegetable production, adversely affecting their livelihood among small-scale farmers. However, there are also opportunities given this situation, and one of the feasible approaches to address the adverse impacts of climate change is through the adoption of what we call climate-resilient agricultural practices. So climate-resilient agricultural practices can help farmers better understand weather and climate impacts on agricultural systems so that they can better prepare and make informed decisions. So the adoption of climate-resilient agriculture practices will minimize the risk of crop losses due to variability and climate change. So what can be considered a climate-resilient agriculture? So we'll look at some of the pillars and consideration before we can say that a practice can be considered climate resilient. So CRA, or climate resilient agriculture, includes practices both introduce or localized actions that sustainably increase productivity, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and enhance the achievement of food security and agriculture resilience despite changing climatic conditions. So there are three major pillars that has to be considered before a practice can be categorized as a CRA. So according to CGIAR in 2014, CRA is a broad set of practices that sustainably increase, first, productivity, second, mitigate, and third, adapt to changing climatic conditions. So the first pillar is in terms of productivity. So given the practice in a changing climatic condition, still adapting it would increase agricultural productivity and, of course, farm income. So that's the first pillar. Second is mitigation. So such practice contributes to the reduction and or removal of greenhouse gas emissions where possible. So this is the mitigation part. There is an overwhelming evidence that the recent climate change we are experiencing right now is largely because of the alarming concentration of greenhouse gas emissions, particularly carbon emissions from various industrial and economic activities. So the last pillar that we have to consider is the adaptation. So that enhances the achievement of food security and development goals, even with a changing climatic and environmental conditions. So this is the adaptation part where farmers make the necessary adjustment or changes in response to these climatic conditions. So the intersection of productivity, mitigation, and adaptation is considered a climate resilient agriculture. And this is what we are trying to look at in vegetable production among small scale farmers. So climate resilient agricultural practices can help or can significantly improve agricultural productivity, contribute to the reduction in carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions, and adapt to changing climatic conditions. Farmers' decisions can be augmented by information that can help them to better understand the concepts and perceptions on using climate resilient agriculture and how this will impact their yield, their production, and quality of crops. So result of this study can help decision makers, including our farmers, extension workers, and potential investors, including policymakers, to evaluate the viability of adopting identified climate resilient agricultural practices. Okay. Now, within this context, our main research question, so we are looking at what are the climate resilient practices in vegetable production adopted by small-scale farmers, and are these practices profitable enough to be scaled up? So we will try to assess and explore whether current farmer practices in vegetable production can be considered climate resilient, and if it satisfies the three pillars of CRA, we used an investment lens and look at the potential of scaling up these practices. So answer to this question is crucial in adapting and mitigating the adverse effect of climate change in local vegetable production. Now, to address this research question, we gathered data about vegetable practices evaluate whether such practices can be considered climate resilient, and assess its potential for scaling up through an investment lens using benefit-cost analysis. So specifically, we conducted surveys on local practices, adaptation strategies among vegetable farmers in response to the observed climatic conditions. We conducted survey to at least 150 farmers. From there, we also conducted focus group discussions and key informant analysis to further assess whether the identified practices can be considered CRA. For the investment appraisal of the selected practice, the cost-benefit analysis was used using the standard financial indicators like net present value, internal rate of return. So to do this, we of course compare the identified CRA practice to the conventional or the usual practice. Okay, the selected project site for this research is in Cabintan, Ormoc City, Leyte. So Cabintan is an upland barangay of Ormoc City, which is considered the vegetable bowl of Leyte because it has good topography, good for planting vegetables. So Cabintan is also located along the eastern seaboard, which is frequently visited by strong and more damaging typhoons. So the region has an abundant and year-round water source, but experiences excessive rainfall, especially during typhoon season, making vegetable production a bit challenging. Based on the survey, the most common crops being planted in the area include cabbage, Chinese cabbage. We also have tomato, bell pepper, onion, eggplants, squash, and corn. So farm size is relatively small. The average farm size is below 0.75 hectares, and this can go as low as 0.25 hectares and rarely as high as 2 hectares. Farmers in the area practice crop rotation to prevent pest infestation. So based on the collected data in Cabintan, the following practices can be considered or candidate to be categorized as climate resilient practices. So these include different cropping systems, farm manure application. We have also protected cultivation, agroforestry, crop rotation, use of indigenous crop species, organic farming, mulching, crop animal integration, among others. So there are several practices identified, and we consulted our horticulture expert as to what can be potential CRA before we subject each of the practice to the 3 pillars of climate resilient agriculture. So from this list, we focus particularly on protected cultivation and assess whether it can qualify using our pillars of CRA, such as productivity, adaptation, and mitigation. So we will also do similar analysis for the other identified CRA, but for this presentation, I'll just highlight about vegetable protected cultivation. So protected cultivation is the most contemporary approach to produce horticultural crops in a modified and controlled environment. It manipulates production factors such as light, soil, water to attain maximum productivity and allows for a regular supply of vegetables during off-season or during excessive rainfall. This is also used to protect plants, particularly vegetables, from adverse climatic conditions, including insect pests and diseases. So this technology can further help farmers produce year-round supply of vegetables, thereby gaining higher income. So we now subject protected cultivation to the pillars of climate resilient agriculture. First, productivity. So protected cultivation improves on the conventional practice by providing opportunity for farmers to produce off-season vegetables, particularly during rainy season. Farmers' income will be higher with protected cultivation because they can capture high market price with limited supply available in the market during rainy seasons. So in terms of the adaptation, farmers can continue production even during excessive rainfall. It also reduces the risk of waterlogging and reduces the incidence of pests and diseases. And third is on mitigation. So can contribute to curbing emissions or reducing carbon emissions and Also, improving quality of groundwater because of reduced use of chemical inputs like pesticides and fertilizers, because they are now operating in a more controlled environment. So from this, it appears that we can check all the necessary requirements for this practice to be considered a climate resilient. So we now subject protected cultivation to some of the economic analyses. So first, we use gross margin analysis. This is usually used to initially assess the potential of intervention before a full economic analysis is done. So gross margin is the farm's total revenue minus the cost of producing the goods. We capture variable inputs in the production of vegetables. So again, for gross margin analysis, our focus is only on the variable costs. And this would include inputs like seeds, fertilizer, pesticides, material costs, including labor and transport, and other overhead costs. So the table shows the comparison of gross margin between open field, so that's the usual practice, and protected cultivation. And we are evaluating in this time when we conducted a survey, farmers were planting tomatoes. And we also used the same price for the analysis to reduce variation in terms of price. Results show that on average, protected cultivation has higher yield, translating to higher gross margin. This is based on a one cropping system on a small farm size. But this analysis does not include the cost of the protected structure. So now we proceed with cost benefit analysis, where now we incorporate the fixed cost in the analysis. So the fixed cost of the protected structure, this is the upfront investment cost, which is around 40,000, and we expand the analysis to 10 years. So we use a discounted cash flow or discounted financial cash flow to estimate the benefits and cost of adapting protected vegetable cultivation. And then we compare this one to the usual or conventional practice, which is open field cultivation. So the cash flow was projected for 10 years, and in valuing the net benefits, this was discounted to obtain the net present value, and we used 10% discount rate. Okay, so as I mentioned, the needed upfront investment cost from our small-scale farmer is around 40,000 pesos, and we expect a major maintenance of the structure every 5 years. So the cost-benefit analysis shows that we use our indicators, the net present value and the internal rate of return. So in determining the profitability of investment, so net present value is a good financial indicator. If it's positive, this implies that the overall the benefits exceeds the cost of the investment. And another criterion we considered is the internal rate of return. So if the computed IRR is greater than the opportunity cost of the capital or a discount rate, then adopting a CRA practice is a profitable investment in the long run. So result shows that our NPV is positive and our IRR is greater than the discount rate, suggesting that the shift from open field cultivation to protected cultivation generates positive incremental benefits because of higher yield, and also there's a reduction of input use. So the investment can be recovered starting at year 2. So for a 10-year period, farmers can expect a yearly incremental net benefit of around 14,000 pesos and a net present value of more than 43,500 pesos with an internal rate of return around 60%. So this indicator suggests that investing in protected cultivation is a profitable venture and has a potential to be scaled up, and also other farmers can be encouraged to adapt to this protected cultivation. Now, for the environmental net present value, now we include externalities from adopting protected cultivation. According to Santos et al. In 2017, the adoption of protected cultivation has a positive externality manifested through improved water quality due to reduced chemical runoff and chemical runoff from pesticide and insecticide use. It will also reduce carbon emissions through the reduction of chemical inputs. So with the added positive externalities, the benefit cost analysis shows even a higher net present value and internal rate of return. We also conducted sensitivity analysis exploring different market conditions and environmental shocks. Even with a 20% reduction in farm output and prices will decrease by around 15%, so still the protected cultivation is a profitable investment. So why is this identified CRA better than the conventional farming? So I'll go back again to the main pillars of CRA. So first on productivity, shifting to to protected cultivation improves conventional practice by providing opportunity for farmers to produce off-season vegetables, producing vegetables during rainy seasons. Farmers' income will be higher compared to open field cultivation. Second is in terms of mitigation. It contributes to reducing carbon emission and improving quality of groundwater because of the reduced use of chemical inputs like pesticides and fertilizer. And third, on the adaptation, there's better management of pests and diseases because it is in a controlled production environment. So farmers can engage in high-value vegetable production even during off-season. So it is best suited during rainy or wet season, particularly around June to December. So as a concluding remarks, the comparison of CRA practice to conventional practice shows that there is this positive net incremental benefits over the span of 10 years. So farmers has to be taught to think about in the next 10 years. The financial analysis shows that investing in protected cultivation yields net present value and higher internal rate of return. And results suggest that adoption of protected cultivation generates higher farm productivity, contributes to reduction in emission, and achievement of year-round supply of vegetables, despite changing climatic conditions. So a result of this study can help decision makers, including farmers, extension workers, and potential investors to evaluate viability of adapting climate resilient agricultural practices in vegetable production. This would also provide input to policymakers in prioritizing agricultural practices that can contribute to the improvement of food security and livelihood of small-scale vegetable farmers. So with this, let me acknowledge the support provided by ASHAR, John Dellon Fellowship, and the University of New England. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neil Sereno. May I now open the floor for questions and answers? Neil, do you have with us here your other co-authors so they can also assist you?
Yes,
O ikaw lang?
I'm joined by my research staff. I actually send them the link, and they said that they will try to join because they have other commitments. Let me check.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, you're here, so you can answer all the questions. So you can raise your hand through the reaction button or open your cameras and just say out loud the questions that you would like to address to Dr. Neil Sereno. Who would like to be the first? Anyone? Okay, while you are thinking about the questions that you would like to ask, may I remind all of you to please accomplish, yes.
Now I'm joined by Dr. Canesio Predo from
okay.
Philippines,
Dr. Caning. Welcome, Dr. Caning. So let me also remind you to kindly accomplish the attendance form. The Secretariat has posted it in our chat box. So for all of you who are here attending this session, please don't forget to accomplish the attendance form. Now, we don't have questions yet. Okay, perhaps they're still thinking because there's really a lot of information to digest, no? And I'm actually interested in the method that you did, and if you can, maybe I can just ask a question here as a moderator. No, do you plan also to do the same method with other crops or commodities. So this one you used only for, you applied for the vegetable crops, right? Because it's really interesting if you can also scale it up and also extend it to other crops as well.
Thank you, Ma'am Tess, for that question. For this project alone, our focus is in vegetable production. So what the methods is available, we also use it before with a previous project funded by DA Bar in Cebu. We analyzed the corn peanut intercropping. So we also use the same method, and now we apply it in Ormoc Leyte in vegetable production. And I would just also to highlight that we'll also apply this method not just in terms of protected cultivation, but the other identified CRA. I think we are looking at mulching, water management to check so that others will not anymore go for trial and error to know if this is beneficial or profitable for them. So we'll prepare that analysis for them that if you go for this kind of practice, it will be profitable in the long run. But the challenge with our small scale farmers is they don't think for long period of time. They think
Yes,
only
yes.
as of like the short period in this cropping as to the next. So there are upfront investment costs, and it would be negative on their part, and that's a bit hard on their side to actually absorb the negative, let's say, cash inflow by that time because of the investment cost. So some support are needed. So hand in hand with showing them that it's beneficial to go for CRA and shift from their conventional practice is also the capacity building in terms of developing entrepreneurial skills of our farmers. Those are the challenges we are seeing. So although we are seeing in our analysis that it's beneficial, it's generating positive income streams, but in Kabintan, very few adopted the protected cultivation because others cannot cash out immediately based around 40,000 investment cost.
Yeah, actually, you already answered my follow-up question because your analysis is for 10 years. Maybe I was just curious if you can also do something like short-term one, like 5 years, so that the farmers can also see whether they can really make profit after 5 years and then after 10 years and so on. I remember ACAR, so it's for the high value agriculture vegetable crops, right? Okay, I hope that would also address our food insecurity problem in the long run. And so if there's no other questions yet, we'll just ask again later after the next presentation. So let me now call on Miss Iris Joy. Yeah, you're going to share your slides. Okay, the screen is yours now.
So good morning, everyone. I will be presenting to you my research entitled The Assessment of the Economic Contribution of Mining Industry in Carrascal. So this is the outline of my presentation. Economic contribution of mining can be indicated as to the number of jobs created, business expansion, livelihood programs and projects, and taxes and fees collected that had given significant change to the community, specifically towards the employees, the business sectors, livelihood beneficiaries, and local government units. In 2006, before the mining started its operation, employment opportunities in the municipality of Carrascal is very low. The LGU depends almost 95% of its income to its internal revenue allotment. When mining operations started, it generated more than 7,000 jobs in the municipality, and the LGU collected revenue from mining more than its internal revenue allotment. That is from the local government unit of Carrascal Financial and Economic Profile in 2015. Several studies have been conducted to assess the impact and contribution of mining industry. One from the Arizona Mining Association report in 2014 indicated the significant role of mining in the economy. There were direct and indirect economic effects of mining industry that generated more jobs and income across the region. Also, Walser in 2000 stated that the contribution of mining can be measured in terms of employment opportunities and income generation, and that mining has a significant role in the economic development of many countries, showing its substantial social and economic benefits to the community. According to Simons et al. In 2010, an important element in the creation of prosperity and stability of the countries where they operated were the taxes and fees paid to the government by the mining companies. Also, the study of Balanay et al. In 2014, there is an increased borrowing in mining areas, increase of human capital buildup, and indicators of in-migration within Caraga region. Moreover, Siring in 2014 determined that mining in the province of Surigao del Sur provided jobs to the community and increased collection of taxes and fees to LGUs. Despite the fact that mining is an economic driver for growth in Caraga region, being the mining capital in the Philippines, results during the survey of the 2015 National Housing Targeting System for Poverty Reduction showed that there is an average of 51% of the households in mining host and neighboring barangays are still below the poverty threshold. Also, mining operation is not sustainable, particularly when the area is totally mined out. Due to weather conditions, operations is temporarily shut down and some employees do not have any job during rainy season. During this time, economic activities slow down. The community, on the other hand, needs an alternative source of income to augment their daily needs. Apparently, mining in the companies allocated the Sustainable Development and Management Program, SDMP fund, within this community for its development in support to education, infrastructure, and livelihood activities. But it had given significant contribution to the people of Caraga, according to the report of NEDA Caraga in 2017. Thus, this study was conducted to consider the economic contribution of mining industry in the municipality of Carrascal, Surigao del Sur, where mining operation existed for almost a decade. The study gave significant information in the perception of those directly and indirectly affected by the mining, particularly to the employees, the local business owners, livelihood beneficiaries, and LGU officials. The output of this study served as framework for possible enhanced sustainable livelihood program to the community and also to the policy makers. The study used descriptive and quantitative methods of research to derive sound inferences and to tabulate data and simplify the results for analysis and interpretation. Stratified proportional random sampling was used in the selection of number of respondents. In gathering of data, a researcher-made questionnaire was utilized. The survey questionnaire entailed the respondents' perspective on the level of economic contribution of mining. The assessment was measured through a 4-point Likert scale. Statistical tools like percentage frequency distribution, weighted mean t-test, and analysis of variance was employed to treat the collected data. There was a profiling of respondents to identify the difference of the responses. The respondents of this study were the people in the community since they are affected by the mining industry, and it is presented here in Table 1. It includes employees of the mining industry, the local business owners operating in the municipality, the livelihood beneficiaries who are recipients from the mining, and the last we have the local government officials. who collected taxes and fees to this industry. It was conducted in the municipality of Carrascal, and it is one of the municipalities of Surigao del Sur in Caraga region. It is composed of 14 barangays, and there are 2 mining companies operates during the conduct of study in 2018. Now let's go to the results. Shown in table 2 is the profile of the respondents and are grouped according to their profile. There was a total of 575 respondents. There are 255 employees surveyed, and it reveals that 68% are residents of the municipality and only 82% live outside the municipality. The industry has been employing residents within and outside the mining area, which is, according to Manceni and Sala, job creation of this industry had an effect to people's welfare. Moreover, another group of respondents are the local business owners in the municipality. They are grouped according to the goods and services offered. It was found out that out of 152 business owners, 63% offered goods and services that is not mining related. The economic activities in the municipality are dynamic towards economic growth and development through buying locally produced goods and services. Also, the livelihood beneficiaries were also surveyed and are classified according to the amount of livelihood assistance they had received. With a total of 151 respondents, 40% of them received an assistance ranging from 10,000 to 20,000. Sorry. Also, the LGU officials were surveyed. There are 52% who worked in LGU for more than 6 years, while only 7% rendered service for less than a year. These officials can associate the status of the municipality before there was no mining operation and after the start of mining operation, which is, according to Simons et al. In 2010, the taxes paid by mining companies is an important element in the creation of prosperity and stability in areas where they operate. More so, presented in Table 3.1 were the perceptions of employees to the economic contribution of mining industry in the municipality. They perceive they strongly agree in all the indicators presented, especially in receiving salaries and wages on time. However, it implies that the wages and salaries of employees were not enough, although they had received it on time. The next table presents the perception of the local business owners. There are some variations in their response. They strongly agreed that mining operation had helped them to have greater sales and revenue. They also perceived that the industry helped the municipality in attaining economic development. There is an implication that mining activities had indirectly affected the community by creating opportunities for business enterprises within the municipality, which is similar to the study of Walser in 2000, where mining had substantial advantage to the growth of local small and micro enterprise activity. Subsequently, the livelihood beneficiaries signify that they agree based on the indicators they perceived an economic effect of the industry. The beneficiaries recognized that livelihood assistance from mining companies helped them generate more sustainable income, but had not given adequate amount of capital. It implies that field needs are not addressed properly to further improve their economic status, which is, according to NEDA Caraga in 2017, even though large amount of SDMP fund was allocated to the host and neighboring communities, it had given no effect in poverty alleviation. Furthermore, LG officials' perception indicated that most of them strongly agree to that the taxes and fees paid to LGU by mining companies help to support the projects and programs of the municipality. there is a viable evidence that mining industry paid taxes make significant impact to the government finances to support local infrastructure such as roads, schools, and housings, as stated by Simons et al. In 2010. Shown in Table 4, the data revealed that there is significant difference in the perception and the economic impact of mining industry between the employees of the industry residing within Carrascal and outside Carrascal residents, and also the perception of the livelihood beneficiaries on the amount of livelihood assistance they had received. However, the classification of local business owners according to the type of goods and services offered and LG officials based on the length of service found out that they had no significant difference. Mining provided factors for productivity in the economy and produced different impacts to the community. The greater the contribution reconciles the efficiency of mining industry to the community. Based on the findings stated above, the researcher concluded that mining companies in Carrascal adhere to the policy that citizens within host and neighboring communities are prioritized to work in the industry. To further develop the community, the industry had helped with the income generating activities through consuming on the local goods and services and providing them livelihood assistance to further generate more revenue. However, the livelihood beneficiaries are not fully satisfied with the economic effects of the industry. It seemed that livelihood programs in the community are not implemented successfully, and livelihood beneficiaries' felt needs were not fulfilled after receiving the assistance from the mining company. Likewise, LGU officials worked more years in serving the public, that they understand the role of mining industry in the municipality. The researcher therefore recommends that mining companies may improve the livelihood assistance projects given to the community to make it more sustainable. Since mining activity is not sustainable, there will be a program that will provide the community alternative sustainable livelihood or improvement of existing livelihood in the community to enhance their economic status. Also, it cannot be denied the LGU Carrascal accumulated large amounts of taxes and fees from the mining companies. Thus, LGU Carrascal may ensure a common trust fund that will be used after the expiration of mining operation. This is to ensure the future generations may somehow enjoy the bounty of their place in mineral resources. Also, there are many improvements on there are many loopholes in the conduct of these studies, so therefore further engagement on the socioeconomic and environmental impact of study for mining industry may be considered. That could be all for my presentation. Salamat Karajaw.
Thank you very much, Iris, for that interesting presentation. Let me now open the floor for questions. Well, you can also ask questions related to the first presentation by Dr. Sereno on viability of adopting climate resilient practices. Or you can write on the chat box if you have questions as well. Anyone? Magtatawag ako. Yes, Neil, go ahead.
Thanks, Iris, for the presentation. Can you also share to us the environmental condition with these mining companies? Because I believe more highlighted are on the household and their livelihood side. But can you share us what's the environmental condition with these mining companies where they are operating?
So that could be one of the improvement of this research. So we cannot deny that there is really the siltation of the rivers and then the mountains. So that is when I failed to include the environmental impact of this mining industry, but we can see that there is a significant difference of the environmental condition before the start of mining operation, and so during the mining operation.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious also, Irish. Thank you for answering that question from you. Before I ask Iris, anyone else who would like to ask a question? Okay. Okay. There's a raise of hand there, Gabrielle. Please
Hello,
go
yes,
ahead.
ma'am. Yes, good morning, everyone. This is for Dr. Serino, no? Well, I will sort of deviate from the research that you presented, but it's about agriculture nonetheless anyway. So I'm a PhD development studies student, and at the same time also I'm a development worker and a social entrepreneur. And I'm actually working with the farmers of seaweed farmers specifically of the island of Samar. So from east and western Samar. So my question is, as I said, it has sort of deviated from your research, but you being from or at least the study being from Ormoc or from Leyte, and a lot of seaweed farmers are actually of Region 8 are actually from Leyte. No, one of the biggest in the region is in Leyte. And as you know, climate change is really seaweed farmers are directly impacting the seaweed farmers or seaweed farming. Do we have from the universities, at least in Leyte, with fisheries or agricultural programs, do we have at least some studies that might be able to protect our seaweed farmers? Because it's a really big, as you know, it's high value, and at the same time, it's a huge livelihood for a lot of people, specifically in Leyte, no? So in Darawahan, if you're familiar with the island. So in fact, in the last, not Paeng, but previous to Paeng, the biggest typhoon actually destroyed the entire hundreds of hectares of seaweed farming. And at the same time, it made BIFAR Region 8 actually focus all of their attention, and hence there was no budget for the rest of the provinces in Region 8, no, as a result of this big, at least for seaweed farming, I'm talking about seaweeds, no? So I guess if there's any research that might protect the seaweed farming industry. Sorry if I've sort of deviated to your study, but yeah.
Thanks, Gabriel, for that. So I know some colleagues in Visayas State University who are also working for marine-related marine-related research. There's also this coastal management. There's the marine protected area, but I cannot give specific details as to the seaweed industry. But yeah, we recognize that Typhoon Odette destroyed
Exactly, yeah.
that area, the Wahon Island, and with climate change, increasing sea level, so it's changing the condition. I think it's very interesting research to go through and check on the type of species that are grown and how they are coping and how they are affected, and future directions. I think also suitability, considering all these climatic and environmental changes that we are looking. So sorry, I cannot give concrete answer to that one. Maybe Sir Canning, if you are familiar also with your colleagues in Los Baños who are also doing research with seaweed. But for now, what I can share, in Visayas State University, there are research conducted for coastal resource management and marine protected areas, especially the Cuatro Islas Island, where the Wahon is also nearby. That's in Upacan, and the Wahon is in Bato. So they are just close in the area. As to specific, so I can, later if I'll ask some of my colleagues and I can share you some information if I have it.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll leave my email in the chat box just in case, no, para maka-coordinate, no.
Sir Canning, if you know
Well,
something about
Dr.
seaweeds.
Canning is here. Maybe he can also.
Good morning.
Yeah.
So
Good
what
morning.
I know is that there's an ongoing technical assistance to be funded by different donors who will be doing this natural resource loss and damages as influenced by climate change, and maybe that kind of questions that Gabriel Gan is asking is relevant. I don't know at the moment if my colleagues at the UPB is doing something similar. I am recommending them in one of the consultant positions in that project that will be implemented in 2023. I hope Leyte could be one of the sites, but at the moment I don't have information about that in Leyte. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And sorry for for a little bit deviating a little bit from the topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, Gabriel, that's really related. It's not deviating because it's still related to climate change. And specifically it's affecting our fisher folks there. And seaweeds, as we know, is also a profitable. I mean, it is being exported, right? That we have a good number of exporters in terms of seaweeds. So we also have to protect the production of seaweeds, or to make it more resilient. Any other questions?
My question ako kay Iris. Or,
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Uh,
ahead, Dr. Kani.
Iris, I like your study looking at the economic contribution of mining company, but maybe as you have recommended, it would be worthwhile to include the environmental negative externalities brought about by this company, so that we will be having a holistic recommendations on their economic contribution, whether it's positive or negative. And you have looked at the livelihood, and then maybe when you do the analysis, maybe you have to compare bananas versus banana. Not so maybe the methodology could be improved further later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Noted.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion, Dr. Kanin. And yeah, I also have a follow-up question on that, because we did some work also on the economic benefits of mining industries. So I was just wondering if you considered all the mining companies in Carrascal, or was it just in one company? And then how did you how was the economic benefits collected? The data for the economic benefits were collected. Thank you.
During that time, there are only 2 mining companies who are fully on its full operation. There are other who are under exploration pa po. So there are 2. We have the CNC and the CPP po. And then for the employees, I visited the 2 companies, and then surveyed their employees. And then for the local business owners, so all the registered business enterprise in the municipality, so I randomly selected them, so I surveyed them. So, and then for the livelihood beneficiaries, so with the help of the community relations officer of the mining company, so we go to the beneficiaries in the respective barangay for the survey. And then for the local government units, the official, so I go to the LGU for the survey po.
Yeah, so all the for the livelihood effects, did you consider only those who are the communities who were in the mining company is located, or you also included all the other neighboring communities where there's no mining?
In the municipality where in
They have
Carrascal
no.
only po, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, well, probably the suggestion of Dr. Kaning earlier, you can consider those suggestions to also improve your study specifically on the environmental effects of the mining companies there.
Yes.
Okay, so any other questions? I mean, we still have enough time. This is actually my first time to moderate such, very relaxed, in a relaxed mode wherein I don't have to interrupt the speaker. But it's time, the time is up. Okay, there's a raise of hand from Nariel. Please go ahead. You may ask your question.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
sir,
you very much for
sorry.
the presentation. Nadidinig ako?
Yes, go ahead, Sir Nariel. We can hear you.
Wala. Okay, the two presentations, thank you very much for the presentation on the two studies. But ang question ko is on yung one commodity or one particular aspect of source of income of the small farmers and of course the miners. May tanong ako kasi yung in the earlier doon sa kabila kasi na prior to this, ang ano doon is on the diversification and innovation. So I'm just curious whether part of the study also noted some options on diversification that are parang di ba resiliency kasi kung seaweeds lang okay, kanina compromise yun. Of course yung vegetable, it could be also there's also risk. So I'm thinking whether there are studies or observations on the two studies that this particular group of beneficiaries are parang resilience ba, mayroong options la on integrating diversification on their livelihood. Thank you.
Go ahead, Neil. You may go.
Kinahirapan ko ba yung ano mo,
Yeah,
Marites?
sorry, you may answer. Go ahead and answer the question.
Okay. Thanks, Sir Nariel, for the question. So for our study in Cabintan, we've noted that there are livelihood like crop animal integration. So in case for crop failure, so at least there's still support for coming from livestock and poultry. And also, farmers rotate their vegetables. So sometimes they plant cabbage, and then the next round they plant, for example, onions. And sometimes they plant squash, depending on the condition, depending on also on the demand. And sometimes they try to capture seasonal events like fiestas. So they try to plant pepper. So, but Cabintan area is heavily on vegetables. So I think majority of farmers there are on vegetable. But in addition to it, there are also this sari-sari store that can support some of their activities, and some are employed in government sectors. Others are working as teachers in the barangay. So those are some of the livelihood available for our study site in Cabintan area.
Okay, before Iris answers the question from Sir Nariel, Gabriel said that dragon fruit, is there dragon fruit also in your study area, Neil?
In Cabintan, we haven't noticed any dragon fruit, but there are ornamental plants. So many are, there's even a tourist area there that's growing only flowers. So attracting tourists, those who are
Horticulture.
focusing on flowers. Dragon fruit, I'm not aware of dragon fruit, but there are areas in Leyte Island where dragon fruits are grown. So I know in Dulag area, there's a lot of dragon fruit because our neighbor is from Dulag and they're always selling us dragon fruit. So there are dragon fruits. But in this study site, I haven't seen dragon fruit.
Okay, so Iris, would you like to also answer the question of Sir Nariel? Diversification. Yeah, sorry, Irish, you're on mute. Please unmute. Yeah, thank you.
I haven't pa po that for the diversification po. So parang yung study ko po is there are so much improvement po for the study so that we can really see what is we can really evaluate the impact of this mining industry in Carrascal. So specifically, there are other proposals for the another areas to be mined out. So before we will approve that, we will have this study first so that we can see what's really the impact of this. Specifically, there are watershed now that will be that will be affected with this operation. So there are neighboring municipality in Carrascal. So we have Tantilan. So there are in which there is a watershed area there. So probably it can really affect. That could be really be affects the specifically that we are in an agriculture. The livelihood of the people there is agriculture. So parang my father is a farmer, and then there's a parang irrigation. So during the, especially now that we have this rainy season, so you can see the siltation na in the irrigation. So therefore it can really affect the livelihood, not just the livelihood of the farmers. So we have to look into that for that could be one of another improvement of this study po.
Yeah, that could also, that could be one of the negative externalities that I think Sir Neil was mentioning earlier that you can measure, and Dr. Kani as well. So I guess you can also suggest, as what Gabriel said earlier, to plant dragon fruit after it has been rehabilitated. I mean, there's we usually have the rehabilitation part, right? When after the mine, it's being mined out. So kasama yan sa, it's part of their contract. They can't really just leave the mining area just like that. They have to rehabilitate as well. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let me check the chat box here. Okay, there's a comment from Sir Nuriel. Yes, that the watershed study would be also important, right? Because that's that would affect really the not only those that are around the watershed area, but also in the long run, there's an effect on of the mining companies on the watershed areas. Okay. It's like we don't have any questions. Going. Okay, so it seems that we are ending this session ahead of time. Before we do that, I'd like to announce that we still have 2 more plenary sessions this afternoon, and they're also as interesting as during the first day. So we have plenary session number 6 on addressing the social insurance need of the population. The panelists are Representative Stella Luz Kimbo, Attorney Elliot Dino Santos, Mr. June J. Perez, and the moderator is Dr. Fernando Aldaba. And we also have a closing plenary session on forecasting the Philippine economy, challenges and opportunities. So this will be a panel again of discussants from World Bank, from Asian Development Bank, and from the Department of Economics at Ateneo de Manila University, and also from the private sector from Citigroup. So with that, could you please open your cameras for a photo ops before we leave? Miguel, can you take a picture of this sessions? Yesterday, I forgot to ask the participants.
Yes po, ma'am. All right. So, everybody, let's take a group photo.
Okay, 1, 2,
All right.
3,
Everybody
smile.
smile. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you very much po.
I saw Dr. Jim Romaset earlier, but I think he left already.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we hope to see your papers also published. So one of these days, maybe early next year. We have the Philippine Review Economics also, where you can submit your papers for review and for possible publication. So with that, thank you so much, and thank you everyone thank you to our speakers and to everyone who has participated in this session.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ma'am Tess.
Have a good day.